So, I'm just happy to have you guys here. Thank you for being here. I know it's not easy, especially if you're working to carve that time out. My name is Emily Muccianti. I am the creator, instructor, and the the woman behind Fort Prep 101. I'm a reading specialist, a longtime educator, have been in education for over 30 years, and I have been on this teacher credentialing support journey for about 8, 9 years now, and happy to have a new course that supports the Foundations of Reading test. So we're going to go through some of the content of the exam. We're going to talk about the specifics of the areas you really need to be focusing your studies on. And then if you're interested, I'm happy to tell you about how my course can help support you, because as you know, this is not an easy exam, and the books that help you prep are not very engaging in a lot of cases. And so I made this course to be very user-friendly and interactive. As I said, I'm a reading specialist. I have been supporting educators and students in grades K through 12 for over 30 years. And the majority of my teacher support regarding the reading competency exams have been in California with the RICA exam. And the RICA has been put away, sunset, and California has now moved into the Foundations of Reading test, which is why I kind of pivoted and support teachers there too. But I do consult and coach with schools regarding their reading intervention programs. That is really what I do the majority of the time. I also do some assessment training through Acadience. And so lots of ways that I keep my toe in education. First of all, just a little bit about the course. Fort Prep 101, again, is designed for teachers in about 17 or 18 states now. And Karina, I'm super happy to have you here, even though you're in Texas and your test is not exactly the same. There is so much overlap that truly any of the exams that help prep you for a science of reading exam, like the Foundations of Reading, is going to help you with the science of teaching reading exam that's required in Texas. But these are currently the states that require the Foundations of Reading test 890. And so my course is specifically designed for those teachers that really need that additional supportive type of role, that visual engagement, a mentor that you can lean on rather than just a book that you're going through, because that's just a little bit more challenging, I think. Science of reading material is rather new, and so it can feel overwhelming. And that is why I made this course to be as user-friendly, teacher-friendly as possible. And also, this is really about professional development. That is one of the reasons why you can actually earn a unit of grad credit when you complete my course through UMass. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. So the Foundations of Reading test, the 190 and the 890 are virtually the same. They've just kind of changed numbers, a little bit of formatting differences. But this is required right now in 18 different states for elementary teachers and special education teachers. The focus is on the science of reading and structured literacy. The focus or the measure is designed to really check your foundational knowledge as an educator in how to effectively teach reading to your students. And if you were from California, it is a different test from the RICA, but the content is definitely very, very similar, although it's a little more targeted and streamlined. So again, in addition to those teachers that are elementary or special ed, this is usually required also in states for any teacher who is a single subject content area teacher in the secondary and they want to move down into elementary, and so they're adding that credential. It's also for many private school teachers in certain states, and it is also for those that were prepared in another country and looking to activate their credentials here in the state. And interestingly enough, if you were ever trained in the Peace Corps to be a teacher, it's also required for you to take the Foundations of Reading test. So the structure of this exam, The FORT is a 100 multiple choice question exam and 2 constructed responses. So you are given 4 hours to take the exam, to do all 100 questions and to complete those constructed responses. The passing scores are going to vary from state to state. Right now, the lowest passing score accepted is in California, and that is for a 224. Most other states require a 240 or a 239. So you want to double check with your particular state website to see what that is, what your requirement is. The breakdown of the exam of your test score, 80% of your overall score is going to come from those 100 multiple choice questions. So if you're a little bit concerned about your writing, perhaps you're feeling a little bit weaker in that area, just know that that only counts for about 20% of your overall score. I do offer some additional support with a VIP membership for those that are interested in having that kind of additional practice and constructed response reviews by me as well. The cost to take the exam by state varies a little, but generally speaking, it's about $139. And all of these are going to go through the National Evaluation Series site. That is where the Foundation of Reading is actually housed. So you can get there by going to your state website, and then it will pivot you to the NES site for that. So the sub areas of the exam, there are 4 sub areas that you are required to have a deep knowledge of, and within each sub area are a number of different competencies. These are the general sub areas, and we'll get into each of the competencies in just a moment. But I wanted you to see the breakdown for your score. So 35% of your tested material will come from the foundations of reading development. This is going to be all of the early literacy types of things. This is going to focus on the decoding, the phonological awareness, and the fluency aspects. So this is by far the heaviest component of this exam. The subarea number 2, which focuses on reading comprehension, vocabulary, academic language, 27% of your score will come from that portion. And then another section is going to be on reading assessment and instruction. So this is about looking at assessment data, looking at a student's reading behaviors, interpreting and analyzing the results of that, and then planning instruction as it relates to whatever the strengths or weaknesses are of that student. Now, the remaining 20% comes from those 2 constructed responses. And there's no new content here per se. This is a different application of the earlier sub areas that you've done. So there is each of the constructed responses counts for 10% of your score. One of the constructed responses will focus on the foundational reading skills, which comes back up here to sub area number 1. And the second constructed response will focus again on the reading comprehension, which takes you back up to sub area number 2. So the focus as far as content goes is going to be these 3. The content here in the written part of the exam does not change. It's just the application part of the content that you've learned in 1 through 3. But before we dive into the specific competencies for each of these, I want you to understand how this all fits in from a broader perspective. And I think that a number of different prep systems or prep websites kind of miss this as far as really understanding how reading develops from a broad perspective. One of the biggest mistakes that I see teachers who are preparing for these exams make is that they dive in, they start memorizing terminology and taking practice questions without an understanding of this broad sense of how reading develops. And before you can dive into the specifics, we have to get a broader look at this, which is why in my course, I really dive into this deeply. But I want to give you a little bit of an overview because I think it's going to help navigate you to wherever you are starting from. We always start by looking at the simple view of reading, and this is really a visual representation of how reading develops. And we look at reading development as a multiplication formula, if you will, where we take the skills that are necessary for word recognition. This is all of the skills involved in looking at print on a page and decoding the print. So this is really all of that foundations of reading area number one. This is all that first part of the exam in sub area one. The second part of this multiplication equation is the language comprehension. This involves the student's ability to communicate. It involves oral language, vocabulary, academic vocabulary, semantics, and all of this really falls into that sub area number two, in addition to the reading comprehension. When we have a student who has the skills that are able to recognize the print, they have the phonological awareness, the phonics skills, the fluency to read the print on the page, and they combine that with their ability to understand what the language means, what the vocabulary means, how the syntax of the sentences are formed in order to communicate. When we are able to multiply these two broad skills together, then the result is reading comprehension. So reading comprehension needs to be looked at as a product. It is not an isolated skill. It is not a single thing. It cannot be tested in a single way. It can not be taught in a single way because it is a product of all of these earlier skills working together. And I think that's really important when we come back here to those sub areas and we are looking at, okay, how do we develop reading comprehension? Well, the first thing we have to understand is that all of these earlier skills will impact reading comprehension. And so we need to have that as our foundation and our baseline. The second part of this is looking at it from a more specific lens, which we look at Scarborough's reading rope. And this is still the same kind of formula where we have that word recognition part of the skill times that language comprehension part of the skill. And we weave all of these individual isolated skills together to produce a skilled reader. That's a person who can comprehend what they are reading. They can read the print. And so we, as teachers, we have to be able to use our assessment, our tools that we have in order to identify any skill deficits in these single skills. Because if a student, let's say if you are working with fifth graders, sixth graders, if you have kids, and we all do, right, that are older students that are not comprehending what they're reading, well, a teacher who does not have this knowledge might think, well, I'm just going to have them read more and we're going to do more reading comprehension questions, and then that's going to make them comprehend better. And that's not the case. And that's what these exams are really trying to help new teachers develop, is this analytical analysis of what is happening with these skills that produce our students' ability to be skilled readers. And so that's where we begin from any holistic type of standpoint. But when we take this now into the Foundations of Reading test, let's look specifically at what do you need to learn, what do you need to study for that sub area number one. Now, remember, this is the biggest area of the exam. This is the one that is going to have the most questions on. So you really want to have this. And what is, I think, also important to note is that developmentally, there's a lot of different stages that are happening here with our students. So we're talking about the development of phonological and phonemic awareness, which happens very, very early prior to kindergarten. We move into learning about the concepts of print, and the alphabetic principle, which is really where kids are starting to learn how to navigate text. They're starting to understand that those letters that they're learning about in their classes are actually connected to sounds. We then take that a step further with the development of phonics, word analysis, and decoding, where we learn different phonics patterns so that students can learn to have letter sound correspondence. They can learn to sound out words to decode unfamiliar words. And then there's also in this area is really the relationship between oral language and written language. Students are wired at birth, unless there's something wrong critically, but they are wired for language. Okay, they are wired for speech. Students are not wired for reading. Reading has to be taught, but they come to us with this oral language, right? This ability for speech. And what we have to do is connect that skill of oral language and speech into all of these other earlier reading skills so that they can get to the point of being readers. So that is our focus with sub area number 1. Now, in this, just for informational purposes, I'm telling you the areas you need to study. There's a lot of specifics. And in fact, I dropped it in the chat once already, but I'm going to drop this again for you. This is the outline of what's in the course, which covers all of these sub areas more specifically. So let me just drop that back in the chat if you joined us a little bit late. This is that outline there for you. Okay. And then what I do, though, in my course is I actually teach each of these and all of the specifics very, very deeply, very, very thoroughly. So sub area number 2 focuses on reading comprehension, but we're looking at all of those other earlier skills, including the vocabulary, the language development, academic language, and we get into the specifics of some comprehension strategies. We look at how do we help facilitate comprehension with both literary or narrative text versus informational or expository text, because those two different types of texts are very, very different. We have to actually teach them a little bit differently. Typically, your informational texts for students tend to be more academic and more challenging. So we have to approach these a little bit differently, where our literary texts include things like dialogue and themes and, those types of figurative language is involved. So there's just a really different approach to both of those texts that we try to distinguish between. And then in this sub area also, the fort is going to want you to lean in heavily on how you would support diverse learners. Now, this could include students with reading difficulties such as dyslexia, but more specifically, you're going to have some questions related here to English learners. So your students that are your multilingual learners, this is the area where you're going to have a lot of questions related to that. And then sub area number 3 is really about how do we take our formal and informal assessment, how do we analyze it and use it to then guide our instruction so that we can best meet the needs of our students. This is what you will do in your classroom all the time, right? We have to be able to use the data to guide our instruction to meet those needs. And then when we're actually talking about, well, how do we meet the needs of all of our students? We have to discuss differentiation and scaffolding. How do we reach all students? It's a very, very challenging task. So we get into that in sub area 3. And then again, supporting students that have reading difficulties. If you have students that are on IEPs or they have 504s for different literacy needs. This is something that we would talk about in this area here. And it really is about kind of this cyclical plan that we go through. We assess, we analyze that assessment, we make the instructional plan, then we teach it, and then we come back up and assess to see if what we taught was actually absorbed and retained by our students. So that's really the focus content-wise on this exam. Now remember that you are also given, they call it sub area 4, but that's just the breakdown of these constructed responses. It's not new content. The presentation of this and what you are required to do is different, but the content is not. So there are 2 constructed responses. Each of them count for 10% of your overall score. The first one is going to be about preparing an organized and developed analysis on a topic that they give you related to the development of foundational reading skills. Okay, so anything from sub area 1, that is what's going to be presented to you here. Constructed response number 2 is going to be exactly the same thing, preparing an organized, developed analysis, but it's on a topic related to the development of reading comprehension. So this is going to come from anything related to sub area 2. Now, sub area 3 comes into both of these because we are planning and organizing the material. So that is the content. What you will be given are 2 writing tasks. You may be given a student scenario, like a teaching scenario, where it's going to kind of script out what a teacher and a student are engaged in. And it will ask you to analyze something that you may notice as a strength of that student or a weakness of that student. Or it may give you a set of data, test results that you have to then go through and analyze for a strength and a weakness. Now, in both of these approaches, there's really a format to how you do this. What you're going to do is analyze the scenario or the data. You are going to identify a strength and a weakness, and then you are going to develop a plan for teaching to the student's weakness so that you can improve it. And that's really the format of how all of this will look. You have to apply your knowledge of reading instruction in both of these situations. So it will be asking you to focus on practical application and proving what you know. This is not just theory. This is, okay, here's what I noticed in this scenario. Here's what the student's doing well. Here's what the student's struggling with. And here's what I would do to teach so that we can improve that weakness. So it's about being clear and concise in your writing. And inside of my course, I go into how to actually do this and give you that format and structure, and then walk you through that piece as you go. Now, both of these constructed responses are asking you to have a 150 to a 300 word response. So it's kind of a mid-size response, if you will. It typically is about 3 or 4 paragraphs that you would write. And it's pretty succinct, okay? And again, I cover that in great detail inside of the course. Okay, so that's the content of what the exam takes. But let's talk about a little bit of the registration, the logistics. You will register for this exam through the National Evaluation Series website. Now, it is linked in every state's credentialing, whatever their credentialing website is. In the California, it's the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. That's where we would go to link to that. This is offered all year round. So as far as there is no deadline as far as the exam goes, they're not sunsetting this. This is going to be around for a while. It is offered both through testing centers and through online proctoring. So online proctoring is where you can actually take it remotely from home. I will give you a little bit of a warning if that's something that you're going to look into. They have pretty strict rules that you have to follow. So if you have young children at home, or you have pets, or you have a doorbell that might get knocked on or rung, you want to do everything you can to make sure that your home is completely quiet for this exam. I have heard horror stories of people getting kicked out of the proctoring because like their kids came in to ask them a question and it turned their attention and it could be misconstrued. So just do with that what you will. The cost again will vary state by state, and every state does have a retake policy. Now, what that means is that usually it's a 45-day wait period. So from the date of your exam, if you do not pass, you have to wait 45 days. And this is true for any exam. They want to ensure that you are going to get a new version of the exam. So that is so that that next kind of that new version will come up before you take it again. You can apply for alternative testing arrangements, which give you extra time. They may give you other things. This is for if you have a medical condition that requires maybe frequent breaks, those kinds of things. If you have a cognitive learning disability like dyslexia, if you have other health conditions, if English is not your second language or is not your first language, you can apply for extended time. So that is something that is available to, you can apply for free on their website. And they do have practice tests available on their website. But again, if you joined us late, I just want to remind you that when you are prepping for this exam, don't make the mistake that many do, which is just to take the practice exams and just learn a few vocabulary words and then jump in. It really does require a more concerted approach, I think, than that. Now, I do want to show you what a test report looks like, okay? This is one of my past students who I'm happy to say had an amazing score. She scored a 233. She was out of North Carolina. And what you will see on the first section of your score report is basically what the national benchmark is, what the total or their your test score 289. She killed it. She was so far over. It was such a good score. The standard required in North Carolina was 233, so she passed. The next part of this is going to give you a breakdown by sub area for the multiple choice. So you can see here that here's each of those areas. You've got the language and emergent literacy skills, beginning reading skills, word analysis, and reading fluency. You can see she aced this 100% in that section. She was super well prepared for that. Then in the next section, the development of reading comprehension, it was promoting academic academic language development, analysis of literary text and informational text. You can say just one little miss here, did amazing again, and then the reading assessment and instruction. So it tells you how much you are scoring, okay? So if you don't pass your first time, you want to look at this to see where your areas of weakness are so that you know what really to focus in on the next time. The second part of this is the constructed response. So this is it is the foundational reading skills section and the reading comprehension section. You can see it was a 6 out of 8. This again gave her a 289. She had a great score. Beautiful. She did everything right. This is so impressive. I was so proud of her. She worked really hard. So that is what it will look like when it comes back to you. Now, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about my course and let you know what it does, how I've created it, show you what this is. And if you are interested in that, then I will happily take you inside to show you behind the scenes what it looks like. First of all, it does come with a mobile app. So if you were to become a course member and you wanted to access this on your phone or your tablet or other devices, you would go to the App Store and look up Kajabi. This is my web host. That's where the course is located, and it will sync all of your devices. So let's say you're logging in at school because you have some time and you're logging in, late at night on your tablet, and then you wanted to review something at lunch on your phone. It's going to sync all of it together. Okay. This course is fully asynchronous, so it is about 7 or 8 hours of recorded video with slide deck. It'll look very much like this, where I am doing voiceovers and talking you through all of the content, where I teach it to you, so that it's not just learn this. It's here's what you need to know. Here's what it is. Here's what it looks like. Here's how it's applied in a test question. Here's what it looks like in your classroom. It gets very, very thorough, very comprehensive. This also I have study planners, guides, handouts. I have a course workbook that goes along with it. There are practice tests also so that you can test your knowledge as you are going through this. And I have an option if you want additional support for your constructed responses. VIP members get that added support where they share their constructed responses with me, and I review them. I give you feedback, tell you what you're doing right, tell you where you can improve, and really help you dial that in. So it is very supportive. It's very visual. It's teacher friendly. It is designed for teachers. I am a teacher. I'm an educator. I've been doing this. It is just me. I am the one that created it. I did all of it. There is no, support system behind. It's me. That's, if you email me, that's who you're going to get, is me. And, but I don't know about you. I'm a very visual learner. And so going through a book can be very challenging, especially with something really heavy like all of this science of reading content. So I created this to be very visual. There are images, there are videos, there are sample demonstrations that I link you out to YouTube. So it's very engaging. Again, the mobile app is through Kajabi. If you were to become a member, you get unlimited access for your during your membership, which is 1 year, unless you decide on a month-to-month membership, which I'll show you that also. And then I have different pricing options to make it fit your budget. This is the homepage in the course. I'm going to show you what this looks like and actually take you through this. But I just love this because these are so many of my past RICA students. And, I supported the RICA in California for about 8 years before it was, it morphed into the Foundations of Reading Test. And I have just met hundreds and hundreds of new teachers and supported them and early in their career. And it's just been an absolute joy. So I love to look at this picture because it reminds me of all of them. We do a lot of live workshops we did with the RICA. Right now we have about 40 members in our course. Once we get up to a little bit more and people are interested in doing sessions live, then that would be something that I would also bring in. You can earn up to a unit of PD credit from University of Massachusetts Global. It's a $60 unit that you would pay to them. And the reason this is so important is because as a teacher, the way that you make more money is you move up the salary schedule by adding units. And this is probably the most affordable unit I've ever seen, which is $60 a unit through them. And that can help you, again, move up because this is professional development. So as you're kind of contemplating how you want to approach this, I always like to remind you that this is really more, it's about preparing for more than a test. You are becoming a teacher, and all teachers are reading teachers. I don't care what grade level you teach. We all have to be knowledgeable in this area. We have a literacy crisis in our country. And so I'm here to help you become that kind of teacher that you've always wanted to be, the one that can make the difference for your students. And that's why I created this to be as a professional development program, really. So it's about learning structured literacy and the science of reading. It's about helping you engage with real classroom realities, not just the theory. And it's about giving you instructional tools and practices that you will be able to take into your classroom tomorrow to help you help them. So you walk away with more than a passing score. You walk away with the foundation really to change those lives through teaching literacy. So the course was built for the teacher that you are becoming, not just the test that you are preparing to take. And I mentioned my RICA journey. I think we were at about when the RICA ended, I was about at 2,500 different teachers who had come through my course, which was amazing. And I encourage you, if you want to see what other people have said about my past courses, this was the RICA. I would love for you to Google RICA Prep 101. You'll see that there's over 200 Google reviews. I have a 5-star review average, which is pretty darn good. And you can read what everybody has said about that course because the courses are very, very similar. The content is virtually the same. I think my Fort course is better because it's updated and I got to do new fancy things with it that I didn't get to do with the RICA. So if it's something that you are interested in, here are the 3 options that I offer. There are 2 yearly options. There's a standard membership option, which is a $147 per year. It does not automatically renew at the end of the year. It's $147. It will never recharge you again unless you ask to renew. The VIP membership is $187 a year. Again, same thing. It does not automatically renew. Now, the difference between these two is the amount of personalized support you get from me through your writing. The VIP, I offer that one-on-one support for you with your writing. The other difference is because in order to earn the unit, you have to submit a constructed response to me. That is only offered with the VIP membership. So if you want to do this and get the unit, you really want to consider the VIP one. If you're just looking, you don't need the units, you're already maxed out on units, you feel like a decent writer, then you could look at the standard membership. So this works out to be about $12 a month, but it's a one-time fee. This one works out to be about $15 a month. It's a one-time fee. There is an option for a monthly membership, which is, it does renew every month. So this is $47 per month. It is a 3-month minimum requirement. And after your 3-month requirement, you can cancel that and or if you pass. So let's say you have it for 2 months and you pass the exam, you give me your test scores, I will cancel it prior to that. And I always like to, as a thank you, give you a discount for those of you that are here with me. So if you are interested, you are welcome to write this coupon code down. It is Fort Newbie and the date, which is 6/1. I'm dropping it in the chat now. You might want to copy that and save it somewhere. This will give you 10% off of either the standard or the VIP. And I'll show you how to engage with that. It will drop that by about $18 here and by about $15 here. And so that coupon code will expire Thursday. So if you're interested, that is something that you want to do by then. So your next steps, if you're interested, the moment that you enroll in my course, you can start. Okay. It's all asynchronous. It's all right there. I will, when I turn off the recording, I'll drop some links in here for you, but you would visit emilymuccianti.com for the course details. My RICA prep members who still have access already have been given this. But I also wanted to remind you, I have an Instagram. I'm not very active on Instagram. I do have a YouTube that focuses on the Ford. I also have a YouTube channel that focuses on my reading intervention. Lots and lots of content on my main YouTube channel. And then our Facebook group, where I keep you informed of what's happening. We have also Fort Prep 101 is our Facebook group that you are welcome to join if you are not there currently. And I would love for you to write my email down, readingdiva06@gmail.com. This is where you can reach out anytime. I am happy to help you navigate or do whatever you need. But for those of you who are interested, I am going to end this recording. I'll take your questions and then I will take you inside of the course if that is something that you would like to see. So let me go ahead and pause that. Thanks for being here.